Hi, I'm Matt C and welcome. This is my first video on this channel. I will be going over a few things during this video, including what the series will be about and its goals. If you like or dislike anything about this video, let me know. Feedback will be especially helpful and I will be grateful that you've shared your opinion with me as I'm just starting out. Let me know if the audio is okay, do I sound okay, and if the video quality is good enough. I did record a private 10-minute pilot type video before this to show some friends. They said I sounded okay, but let me know if you think I need to tweak the audio at all. You may have noticed I'm currently talking over some gameplay footage. This is going to be the main format for a series I decided to call Sometime with Matt. The length of these videos will vary depending on what I have planned and how the video goes. This is the first episode of the series. The gameplay will be accompanied by my commentary where I've discussed not only the game being recorded but numerous other topics. I'll be covering things related to gaming as well as tech, maybe some science, some history, possibly current events, and some of my general thoughts. So I intend to provide some interesting commentary that you can listen to while going about your day. I kind of wanted to feel podcast-like, but also wanted to provide a gameplay video just in case you want something to watch as well. This also gives me something to talk about to start the videos, and I intend these videos to be long form, but length will vary. This first video would be a bit shorter than the upcoming ones, I expect. Videos might be 30 minutes, an hour or longer. I think it's going to be very dependent on what I'm talking about. So I'm going to be giving my commentary over the gameplay. Depending on the game, I'll either play it at the same time or I'll have pre-recorded footage that I'll talk over. This first episode will be the latter so I can focus more, but when I'm more confident, there may be episodes where I play at the same time. At the moment, I plan on the gameplay following a specific objective. Either I do a specific activity during the gameplay or I start a new game and play through until I've covered everything I wanted to cover. This will differ game by game and I will start just by deciding this myself, although I am willing to do specific things set out by viewers also. So most people will probably realize by now this is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, a very popular game released towards the end of 2004. Seems like it is still quite popular. During this gameplay, my objective will be to cycle around the whole map, covering by bike Los Santos, San Fierro, and Las Venturas, the three cities within the fictional state of San Andreas. If this is accomplished during the video, which I'm pretty sure it will be, then I will simply continue cycling around the map at random. I'm doing this by memory, but you may notice me checking the map at points, as it's been a while since I played through this game. And before I get into game talk, I'm going to go over some questions I think you might want answered. And the following questions are ones that I've put together myself just to answer some general questions I thought a viewer might have. So in the future, I will be looking through the comments to pick questions to answer if anyone has any. So feel free to ask and I may bring them up in future videos. So these are the questions. So the first one, why am I doing this? So to provide my take on gaming, tech, some history, science, and current events, and to share my thoughts on the game being played. You could say maybe the sort of gameplay, when I talk about the game I'm currently playing, it's sort of maybe mini review. But maybe don't come to me if you want a full in-depth review on the game. I'll just be talking about it. So that's question one. Question two, so why long form? And I watch and listen to several YouTube channels and podcasts, etc. And I feel long form video is the best for the way I intend these to be watched or listened to, either while driving, at the gym, working, gaming, or other activities in a sort of podcast format. And I think long form provides enough time to go over what I'm doing and to discuss different topics. As mentioned earlier, the length will generally vary per episode with no set time to end. And then question three, will the gameplay have a specific goal? Well, I will do a specific task with some games, and other games I will play an arbitrary length of the game and go with the flow. This will depend on the game and if I feel I can complete a specific task while commentating. Giving the game today, GTA San Andreas, as an example, I'm planning on cycling. I think I mentioned this before, but plan on cycling around the entire map. So, and if this is accomplished before I've covered everything, then I will continue playing, but probably do it at random, but it will differ game by game. And then question 4. So how will the video topics be laid out? So this may change, but I will be starting with commentary on the game that is being played. This will vary in length depending on the game being played and whether I've had experience with the game before. After that, I'll have some pre-decided upon topics that I shall cover. At this point, I may also do a Q&A probably before the topics, if in the future there are questions. So this will start with gaming related things and then proceed into tech, maybe discuss some science and history stuff and other things I'm interested in, maybe current events, may talk about other YouTube creators I watch and podcasts I watch, discuss stuff regarding that. And will generally be a mix of these topics, but I'll try and stay structured, but going off topic is more than likely during these videos. And question 5, so given this will be podcast like where you have guests to discuss games and tech, other things with, etc. So I'm thinking of having guests to talk with in the future. These will generally, in the beginning, I think be friends of mine, but I'm open to other creators. We could record our discussion while the pre-recorded footage rolls, or maybe play something multiplayer and record that. This will depend on the guest, but likely it will be us talking over pre-recorded gameplay. So you may wonder, what will the upload schedule be to YouTube and how will the format change? So in the beginning, if all goes well, then I plan on releasing videos once a week, then at some point increasing the frequency of uploads and uploading maybe different videos with different ideas, but at first it will just be this type of format. But yeah, maybe branching into game reviews, lists, collections, etc., and include recorded live video as well with a face cam at some point. So yeah, eventually see how that goes. So now I basically will start with some commentary on the game. This video has been scripted so far. I've just been reading off most of it. But in a moment, I'll go ahead and talk on the fly. After I'm done talking about the game, I'll move on to my topics as mentioned. Hopefully I don't completely freeze up. If this happens, I can hopefully thank the power of editing and just cut it out. But I'm expecting this to happen. I'll try not to let this become a running gag where I'm constantly cutting stuff. But I think as I get more content, I'm hoping this will improve. Right, and let's get into the game discussion. So yeah, as you can see, it's Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I do remember having this game playing it as a kid. I can't remember if I got it on release. I don't remember that. But yeah, I remember playing it as a kid and never completed it. But did play through on and off bits of the story. Recently played it again about 4 or 5 years ago on PC, on Steam, and finally did complete it. But yeah, it's still holds up fairly well. Not a bad game at all. Still fairly decent. I know there's the definitive editions of that generation's trilogy, but I've heard some bad things about them. I don't know what they're like now. But as far as I know, they were fairly poorly received due to bugs and errors and glitches and things, and just the general aesthetic and graphics looking a bit odd. But yeah, maybe I'll try them at some point in the future. But yeah, I did quite like this game. Going through it's quite fun. There's quite a lot to do in the game. Not as much as like GTA 5. But yeah, it's still like holds up fairly well. And yeah, the reason I sort of chose this game, it's just like an easy sort of chilled out game. You can just do like all sorts of stuff, just regular sandbox stuff. Um, Basically, just do what you want. So I thought this would be a good game just to start off this series with, and I know the game fairly well, so I can yeah, just do what I'm planning, the cycling around. The reason I chose this objective was just, don't know, really. I thought it'd be interesting just to cycle around the entire map with the mountain bike and just see what happens, really. Um, but yeah, I expect it to take, I don't know, maybe maybe 20 minutes. I could be completely wrong there though. I'll just have to see how it goes. And yeah, as I said, if I manage to cycle around the map, I'll just continue around random. But yeah, just would be interesting just to cycle around the entire map and take in the views of the different cities. Um, and while I'm talking about other stuff, so yeah, it's quite a yeah, still quite a good game. Story wise, I remember it. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty memorable. There's always a lot going on. You know, the GTA games. It's always a bit. It can be a bit wild, a bit wacky. Um, I think this is the out of the GTA games I've played, which I think I've played pretty much all of them, except for maybe the oldest ones. But is the thing I remember most is that yeah, it's quite a memorable story. There's always a lot going on, a lot of memeable parts throughout the story. So like the characters like Big Smoke, Ryder, Officer Tenpenny, and obviously you got CJ, who we have cycling around right now. There's yeah, just generally it's quite a interesting story. I think maybe I preferred the story of this to the GTA 5, but I think I preferred the gameplay of GTA 5. I guess I just prefer the newer and being a newer game, graphical fidelity is obviously much higher. Although that game's 10 years old now, so that's pretty crazy, really. Um, but yeah, it still and it runs pretty well. I'm playing this on a modern PC, so yeah, it runs pretty decently, as you would imagine from a game from 2004, like 20 years ago. Um, I don't really remember how it ran on the PS2 back then when I played. I guess I didn't really think about that back then, but I suspect I'll have to look this up. But I'm guessing it, depending on whether it's PAL or NTSC, so it's 50 or 60 FPS. But I'm not entirely sure about that. But I don't remember it having any issues or bugs at the time when I played it. Even though it was quite a while ago, I can't really remember. And I actually do have a physical copy of this for the PS2 that I picked up a couple months ago because I had a collection of games still from when I was a kid. But weirdly, I was missing San Andreas and Vice City, but I had GTA 3 still, which I was a bit shocked about. Why I had that one but not the others. Um, but yeah, GTA 3 as well. I haven't played that in a long time. I never completed that game. Um, I much preferred, from what I can remember, San Andreas. Vice City, I completed that actually. Um, I thought that was, yeah, I really liked Vice City. It was really cool for the time. I may check out GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas definitive editions at some point if when they fix them. Um, and I also, yeah, went through GTA 5, completed that as well. That's a pretty good game. It's based on, and the GTA 5 map is actually San Andreas, but looks a lot different than, obviously, for obvious reasons, than the older San Andreas, one you're currently watching. And I think in the future I will do an episode on GTA 5, just probably doing something similar, just playing around in the map while talking like I'm doing here. Maybe GTA 4 as well, and possibly GTA 3 and Vice City. And I know there is GTA 6. I know there's some leaked footage of it, but GTA 6 is coming out at some point, I expect, in the next 2 to 3 years. I would imagine. I mean, it's been 10 years since GTA 5 came out, 2013, and then if that was for consoles, and then PC it came out 2015, I believe. So yeah, it's been out a fair while. You'd imagine Rockstar would be almost ready to release the new one. I know the leaked footage was from a few years ago, but yeah, we'll just have to see. I think hopefully that'll be just as good as GTA 5. And yeah, back to San Andreas, it had a lot of memorable sort of story missions. I think one of the ones I remember most is when you take the box van and rob like an army veteran's house. That was quite amusing, especially if you woke up. We've also got the missions where CJ and Big Smoke are chasing the train, and then you've got some of the earlier missions with like Big Smoke and Ryder and the other gang members, where they have some pretty wild dialogue. Like Big Smoke when he orders all his food. It's quite a funny moment. Also some cool gameplay bits where you like have to build up the Grove Street gang, and you get all the different territories, and then you can collect cash from that. That was quite cool as well. And just the gameplay is still pretty good. There's like so much you can do. So many vehicles of all kinds. It's the first in the series to have swimming and cycling and just so many vehicles, so many things you could do. They're all integrated into all the missions throughout the game. Like you had the very first mission with CJ is like cycling around the area, getting back to his childhood home. You have missions later with all sorts of vehicles like tanks and planes, and you can also early on in the game you can break into the Los Santos airport by climbing one of the walls actually and get a plane. But if you cross over into the borders of the other maps before like a specific point is reached in the story, then you're going to get I think it's a 4-star wanted rating, which can be a serious issue if you're flying around. I think they send jets after you, maybe even launch like out of nowhere missiles are going to come hit you, which is going to end pretty badly generally, I think. But once you've unlocked or got to the point in the story where you've unlocked all the islands technically, but the cities, you can basically just do what you want. And you can do what you want, and the game opens up quite a bit. Then you do story missions all over the place, and the game is it's fairly long. I wouldn't want to take a guess at how many hours. I expect some people can speed run it really rapidly, but I'm not sure, to be honest, the main story how long. I just remember it being at a fairly good length, and then there's also all the sort of side stuff you can do. There's plenty of that to do as well during the story or at the end. But yeah, I think that's basically the discussion on San Andreas in this episode. May come back to it in the future or cover it a bit more when we cover other GTA games or just at random any other game. I think now I'll move into talking about some games I'm looking forward to cover in the future. So I think I'll be covering the Dark Souls games. I've played them quite a bit, and they're always quite interesting. They can be quite popular. really great games. And probably Sekiro as well. I really love Sekiro. That's one of my favorite From Software games. And then Elden Ring. Also played that. I haven't actually completed Elden Ring. I played a fair bit of it, but didn't end up completing it. So I do want to go back and go through the whole of that. Also love the Mount and Blade games, so want to cover them a bit and have them as a video. Probably be covering Warband, maybe Fire and Sword, and the newest one, Bannerlord, at some point as well. But there's so many games I can cover from so many different sort of decades that I'll go over. I'm quite into my older sort of retro-ish games, like from the sort of mid late 90s up until like now. I've played a bunch of different games over that time, or I didn't play them when they released some of the older ones. I'm not quite that old, but I've played them later. Like I went through and played the older Gran Turismo 1 and 2, which I didn't play. I was too young at the time to play them. I can barely remember playing PS1, but yeah, going back to games even like back then from the PS1 era, the PS2 era, and anything newer. So yeah, those will all be, I think, interesting to cover. Yeah, I've just got. I'm going to put together like a list of games to cover. But if there are any games anyone wants, just yeah, feel free to let me know, and I may cover them and do like a discussion on them, and then do as I'm doing here. I think the next so the second episode of this, I am decided on Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 to have as the sort of pre-recorded. So I'll discuss that as well. But obviously it's a completely different game to San Andreas, but that's just, I like so many different things. I think Flight Simulator is a great, just another chilled out game that you can just play and talk over. Great visuals as well. But yeah, I played some of the older ones of that, but 2020 is just yes, really great game if you're into that sort of, into the flight sim and things like that. So yeah, I think that's going to be the second episode. I'll yeah be covering that. Also want to cover like maybe some racing games in the future, like I mentioned, the Gran Turismo games, Need for Speed games. I think Need for Speed wise, specifically Underground 1 and 2. But also maybe the Midnight Club games. I never played Midnight Club 1, but I've actually got a physical copy of Midnight Club 1 now. But Midnight Club 2, Midnight Club 3, and maybe Midnight Club LA. Maybe the Forza games as well. I think I'll, yeah, be happy to cover them. I did really like the Forza games. I think my favourite, I haven't played any of the Horizon games, but Forza Motorsport 4 that I played on 360 originally. I still have the copy of that. But yeah, maybe the Horizon games as well, because I know they're quite popular. They're a bit different to what I like. I like sort of the Gran Turismo and Forza Motorsport style of game where you have to like build up and do. I quite like the licenses. I know some people don't for the Gran Turismo games. But yeah, those are sort of they're not too simulation like Assetto Corsa or games like that, but they're not like really arcadey. So yeah, I quite like a bunch of different racing games. I don't really play much of them anymore, but I'm looking at going back to playing a few of them. But yeah, we'll also cover some newer games as well. I think the new Resident Evil, I may talk about that in one of my game topics, but cover that at some point. Resident Evil 4, really like the Resident Evil remakes. About must have been over a year now. I went through Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 1 HD remake on PC through Steam, and then Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake, which I really liked all of them. Obviously, the 2 and 3 remake are fairly different to the 1 and 0 remake on the new engine. and I'm pretty sure Resident Evil 4 remake is in that engine. Just they've updated it a bit, maybe. But yeah, that would be cool as well. I never played through Resident Evil 4 when I was younger. The only one I played a bit of was Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, PS1. But I must have been, yeah, I was pretty young. Must have been like late 90s, early 2000s. I played that maybe, and I was pretty young. I don't really remember it at all. Weirdly enough, I do still have that, not the case and everything, but the disc for Resident Evil 3, single disc. Unlike the second one, that was, I think for PS1, that was two separate discs, part 1 and 2. But yeah, before replaying them a couple years ago, the only one I'd ever played before that was Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. So those would be great games to cover. Really enjoy them. But yeah, maybe I'll cover like, I don't know if to cover like brand new games. I have Game Pass, so anything new that comes out in there, I can always do a bit of footage on, do a bit of a discussion on. Also, the Elder Scrolls games, the Fallout games, that'll all be great to cover. The Witcher, absolutely love The Witcher. Played The Witcher 2, completed that, and then The Witcher 3 I actually went through properly about 2 years ago. Went through that and the DLCs, so maybe cover that as well at some point. I think that would be a definite cover. Just so many games that I can cover, really. Quite into my strategy, like Grand Strategy, Paradox, games like that. So maybe cover them as well at some point. I know they're a bit in depth. They're probably maybe not the best thing to watch, but hey, I'll see how it goes. See if people like that want me just to talk over the gameplay of that, like Hearts of Iron and Europa Universalis, maybe. The Civ games, Civ 4, maybe cover that. Civ 5, I haven't played Civ 6, but probably maybe cover that at some point. There are so many games. I don't want to get into too much of a list them out. I don't want to go on forever with that. So I think maybe now I should get into sort of the gaming topics I have. I think mostly it will just be the topics this week are game and tech. So yeah, we'll get into those now. So start off with, I think I'll do a little discussion on Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I know it's been out about almost a month now, 28th of April, I believe it came out. But I never played Fallen Order, the first one I've been meaning to. I've heard, obviously, that got really great reviews. But yeah, now they've released Jedi Survivor. I've heard it's had a lot of issues specifically on PC, but also I've heard people on console complaining about it as well. But mostly I think it's a PC issue. I think they fixed some of it by now, but yeah, we'll have to see. I've heard it's a great game, just let down by the performance issues. It's basically like Fallen Order, but a whole new sort of level. It's like really, really great. But yeah, I haven't really played many of the Star Wars games, to be honest. I've played Battlefront 2 and a couple of the older ones, but I can't quite remember the name. But Battlefront 2 is the one I played a fair bit. I actually really enjoyed that. Played that on PS2 with a friend of mine years ago, and then played it again on Steam. Yes, that's still a really good game. I haven't played the sort of updated ones of those that come out a few years ago, but I've heard on launch they weren't amazing, but I think they're a lot improved now. Maybe go back and try them at some point. But yeah, I haven't actually played too many Star Wars games, but I've heard good things about quite a few of them. I've heard great things about Star Wars The Force Unleashed and its sequel. I've never played them, but I've heard a lot of great stuff about them. So yeah, we'll just have to see. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, Resident Evil 4 remake. I I haven't played the full game. I haven't bought it yet, but played the demo just to test it out, and it felt it ran really, really quite well. When was that? That was released 24th of March. But yeah, played the demo. Definitely plan on buying. Looks great. I heard great stuff about it. I don't think it's 100% same as the original, but I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I think I mentioned as well earlier, I never played the original like PS2 and GameCube. I played it like I never played it through. I played it briefly, I think, at some point a while ago, but I didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't end up playing it through. But yeah, definitely want to actually go through that one. But yeah, the remake, yeah, really great when I played it, the demo. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing that and maybe covering it as well as with the other Resident Evils. And another big release, actually, I wanted to talk about this, is actually Redfall. So that came out 2 and a bit weeks ago, I believe, 2nd of May. And yeah, I actually played through it. I played it through Game Pass, so I didn't pay anything for it. I guess paid the monthly subscription, but yeah, I had an okay time with it. It wasn't like great or amazing. It was okay. I thought it was okay. I know a lot of people really hate it, but I think maybe I thought it was better because I didn't pay £70 or dollars for it, which I think is just wild. Paying that for that game, I think it would be too much. I think it's fine for free on Game Pass. I don't know what I'd pay if I was forced to pay like an actual price for it, but it was okay. Performance was generally okay. There was like, I don't know whether it was the like later in the game I had more performance issues. I noticed there was a like, I think, yeah, like performance issues where I'd load the menus, the start menus, looking for your loadouts and things, and it would just stutter for 3 or 4 seconds, and then I'd exit the menu and it would still be stuttering in game as I'm moving around for another 3 or 4 seconds. And that was happening quite often towards the end of the game. In the beginning it happened, but not very often. I don't know whether it was just, yeah, there's differences later in the game, but yeah, that was odd. I think, like, I liked it, but it had some serious issues, other issues. Not just the stuttering, many weird bugs I noticed. Like, I haven't played a game that had so many like just random bugs in a long time. I don't actually remember anything I've played that was that rough, especially around like launch. I really don't think that should have released when it did. It was pretty poor. Some of the issues, I was like, what is going on? But yeah, weirdly enough, the performance issues didn't happen till later in the game, so I completed it. But the later in the game is when, yeah, the performance issues started happening. But throughout the game, from the beginning, there was just weird bugs. Like, I remember the first hour I was playing, I think there was just a vampire, two just generic guys with guns coming at me. I was going towards them, and then a vampire appeared out of nowhere. But it wasn't. It was like attacking, but it was just shooting left and right, like just in between me and the enemies shooting. But it would just zip, yeah, just zip left and right about 4 or 5 meters in game. Just kept like rubber banding all over the place, and I was just like, "What is this?" Surely they would have noticed this. And just stuff like that, like just very odd. A lot of enemies getting stuck on top of and like in buildings, and I was just like, "Why is this? This shouldn't have been released like this. Surely they would have noticed that." And it's Arcane as well. So I liked that. I never played Dishonored 2. I know I keep saying this, but it's another game I plan on playing. But Dishonored 1 I loved. I played through that, I think, on a while ago on PC. Pacifist run and like through the game, and a did the more like violent run where you take everyone down. But yeah, that was a great game. So I'm surprised they like messed up this game so much. Like it was a big deal. They sort of messed this up, and I think rightly so. It was yeah, just so odd. Like it really shouldn't released. And I mean, if I'd paid £70 or 70 USD for that, I would have been I would not have been happy. And I think you can, yeah, I can tell that. So I mean, it was fine. Yeah, free on Game Pass. It was fine for me. Except for the later performance issues and the weird just bugs throughout. But yeah, I don't know if I'll go back to the game maybe in the future, but I don't think I'd cover it on here like as a gameplay footage thing. But we'll have to see. I know it's yeah, a lot of people hate it. And yeah, I think another game that, speaking of From Software, as I mentioned with Dark Souls, Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. So that's coming out the 24th of August. I watched the gameplay trailer of it. It looks really quite good, actually. Never played the old Armored Cores, but yeah, I'd love to give them a shot as well. I might actually try one in the future. Also, like, I haven't played any mech games really. The Chrome Hounds game looks quite good. I've been looking to get that for 360 because I picked up a 360 because I couldn't find mine for some reason from years ago. So that would be quite cool to play and cover. But yeah, Armored Core, yeah, it does look quite cool. And it's From Software as well, so you'd hope, never know, but you'd hope it would be really great. And yeah, the older Armored Core games, I think maybe they had ones for PS1. I'm pretty sure I remember them for PS2. But yeah, this one looks like it should be pretty good. 24th of well, hopefully 24th of August. But yeah, interesting name as well, I guess. I'm not sure whether Rubicon's referencing anything in the older Armored Cores. I know, say, river in North. Well, I knew it was a river in Italy. I wasn't sure where. I just had a look northeastern Italy. But yeah, wonder maybe it's calling something out from previous games. And yeah, I think next I'll talk about Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So looks to be a good game with another good game with a bit rough performance. And I'll say again, I keep saying I have to say this. I keep bringing up games I haven't played before. I've never played Breath of the Wild, but that looks. I've always heard great things about that. But yeah, Tears of the Kingdom on the Switch. So yeah, great game, but some rough performance. I think the Switch maxes it out at 30 frames per second. With I've watched some people say that it frame drops below the 20s sometimes, which is yeah, pretty rough. If it's stuck to that 30 FPS, I guess it'd be fine playable, especially if you're used to that. Especially on the Switch, I think most games are probably 30. I don't know, but yeah, I've heard a lot of great things, but again, just not the best performing game. I suppose the Switch is how old? I would think the Switch was probably like 2015 or 16, maybe a bit newer than that. And it's also running like a older NVIDIA like mobile chip, like maybe an MX, some sort of MX chip, GPU. So yeah, I guess this to still be using like a mobile chip from 5-6 years ago in a console, it might. I guess I can see where it'd have issues, especially like a big open world. From what it looks, Tears of the Kingdom is set in. So yeah, I sort of can see it having issues there. But from what I've seen, the game still looks pretty good. Like they've really squeezed a lot of performance out of that old NVIDIA chip. But yeah, I would like to play them at some point. The Zelda games I've played years ago, a tiny bit of Ocarina of Time, but yeah, it was a while ago. I think it was on a GameCube. It must have been on GameCube. Like they sort of remastered them. I know they were on Nintendo 64 first, but I think they remastered them for GameCube or something like that. But yeah, I haven't played any of the others. Watched videos on most of them. Love the look of Wind Waker. That's, from what I can tell, I haven't played obviously any of them really, but Wind Waker looks like it would be my favourite from just the look of it. I really love the aesthetic, the art style of that game. It's really great. I have to play that at some point. So yeah, I would have to play through the Zelda games and just see. I would imagine I'd like them. And talking about briefly talking about like NVIDIA and performance and things, I think we'll move on to the non-game sort of the tech topics. There might be some game related stuff in here, but sort of the tech events, tech topics, and some NVIDIA stuff might be brought up. It will be. But yeah, I wanted to bring up this was from a few weeks ago. This is Unreal Engine 5. The game Unrecord, which looks pretty wild, really. It looks you're like pushing the photorealism here with this game. Yeah, I know a lot of people couldn't. There was like debate whether it was real or not. And the developer had to come out and say it's definitely not real. But I think I could definitely tell from watching it that it wasn't real. There's just a few things that weren't, like, you could tell. I think you could tell. But I guess on like a sort of compressed video on like Twitter or on like YouTube, you might be fooled a bit by it, I think. But yeah, it looks quite interesting. Reminds me, like, I love the SWAT games. SWAT 4, I've got that actually on PC on GOG, and that I actually do have a disc copy of that. Funny enough, but obviously run the GOG version. No issues running the GOG version. But yeah, like when I watched the gameplay, I was just like, oh, imagine if they did SWAT 4, remade SWAT 4 with UE5, and like similar to looking to Unrecord, but like remade SWAT 4 in it. And I was just like, that would be incredible. I absolutely love SWAT 4. I still go through it every now and then. It's a really great game, especially there's some really good mods for it. And funny enough, I was so surprised they didn't include it in the full release, but the game came out in 2004 or 5, but there's actual voice commands for the game. I couldn't believe it. I had no clue. I couldn't believe it. You have to, I think there was it's not a mod, or it kind of is a mod that allows re-enable, because they did it in the development. They set up the voice commands for the game, but then scrapped it, but they left the files in there. So I think it was a mod I got that re-enabled the original files that allow you to do voice commands, and that was just really wild. Just a game that old with like voice commands, it just really shocked me. But yeah, going back to Unrecord, like if they did that and made it like SWAT 4, God, I really would love that. That would be really cool. Maybe I'll cover SWAT 4 as well at some point. But yeah, we'll have to see. It's one of my favorite games, SWAT 4. I really do like it. And talking about remaking older games, before I bring this up, this could go quite well as well. Like the RTX remix, I think that would be cool for upscaling older games like SWAT or the older Elder Scrolls. I think NVIDIA demoed it with upscaling in some games. I think Morrowind was one of them. I haven't played Morrowind, but I played Oblivion and Skyrim. But yeah, that would be pretty cool. Pretty cool to do. Now, talking about NVIDIA again and AMD, Radeon. Yeah, so we're looking at the Radeon. It's obviously released the 17900 XT and XTX. That was back in December, I believe. And since then, there hasn't really been much on that front. But I think the 7600 RX 7600 is actually releasing relatively soon. And I know Nvidia released some details. I think it was yesterday about the RTX 4060 and 4060 Ti. So I think in my next video, once got a bit more details on that, I'll talk a bit more about them. So my second video, which is more than likely on Flight Simulator 2020, I'll talk a bit more about that. And then you obviously got the RTX 4070, which came out a couple months ago, I believe now. So I would like to cover graphics card things and maybe CPUs as well on this channel. But yeah, I know there's also, going back to Star Wars and Resident Evil as well, I think for a bit, the RTX 3070, I think, and some other cards with like 8 gigs or below VRAM. I know people were reporting issues about that. Like the issues, actually, a YouTuber I watch was to hardware unboxed. You got so hardware unboxed, yeah. Tim and Steve. I think Steve covered the 3070. This video was released a few weeks ago, but 3070 versus its sort of workstation equivalent with 16 gigs of VRAM, the RTX A4000, and I think generally at least the drops in frames weren't anywhere near as bad as the 8 gig 3070, which still holds up, as far as I can tell, pretty well in modern games. But when, like with some of the newer games, the 16 gig A4000 actually, which is roughly equivalent, I believe, like compute power and whatnot, as the 3070, it actually held up better. So that's quite interesting. I'm just wondering if like the new gen or the next generation of Nvidia and AMD's GPUs will, maybe they see this as an issue as well, and they'll raise VRAM amounts next time round with their 50 series and I suspect 8000 series Radeon. But yeah, we'll just have to see. I actually have an RTX 3080 FE, the 10 gig model. I was very lucky to get that MSRP. I know some people had so many issues with that. I was waiting for months to get it, but just randomly I managed to grab one here in the UK from Scan. But so far I've not had any issues with that card. It's pretty good. Before that I had a 1070 Ti, so it's quite a big jump above that. But I don't plan on upgrading to the 40 series. I certainly don't see the point in that for me, for what I do. But yeah, that's got 10 gigs of VRAM, the 3080 FE. But so far it's been okay. But to be honest, I don't really play, like Redfall's the newest demanding game that I've played in ages. Before that, I guess Flight Sim and Elden Ring. But yeah, I just don't really play that many demanding games as much. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens in the future. And some other sort of issues with hardware. You got Asus motherboards. I actually have an Asus board, and they're having issues with their X670E motherboards for the Ryzen 7000 CPUs, which I actually have. I have a 7900X. So I'm a little concerned, but hopefully, as far as I can tell, I've had no issues so far, and I've checked the voltages and things, and they're fine. But I might update the BIOS when they fully fix the issues, just in case. But I know like a Games Nexus went into this, Steve and his team, and they brought up so many issues with Asus around their wording, around the warranties and things. I was just a bit. I did actually look at the BIOS just before his video just to check, and it said may void or will void warranty if you update your BIOS. And I was like, yeah, I'm not not going to update my BIOS. And then he did his video, and then Asus clarified that their Steve at Games Nexus did his video and his team, and Asus clarified to them that it's just a general text they put with everything, even though they don't mean it. But so they will cover your warranty if you do the BIOS. But then Steve also found that the BIOS update didn't really fix anything. It just lowered the voltage slightly, but there could still be voltage issues. So as far as I can tell, I think I looked a few days ago, it's still an ongoing thing. So I have to see how that goes. Hopefully they resolve it, because that is quite annoying if it is an issue. But I guess if it does break, if something goes wrong, then you're covered. But it's just not a good thing to have to send your like motherboard back and your CPU and have to wait. This really is quite annoying if that was to happen to anyone. And then cover a bit more of Asus in a second, actually. But actually, I may as well cover it now. You got the ROG, the ROG Ally. So Asus is gaming brand, the ROG Republica Gamers Ally, which is like a Steam Deck competitor, and it's actually got a Radeon 780M. I believe there's two models of it, and one's higher clocked or higher core count. But yeah, that looks really quite interesting. I've never really played many mobile games. I actually had I know it's not mobile technically. You can, it's Windows, isn't it? But never really used many mobile devices. Like I haven't used a Switch or a Steam Deck. But yeah, something that I'm interested in, especially the integrated graphics like the Radeon 780M. It seems like it's getting to the stage where, I mean, even with the 680M and some of the older ones, you can still play a lot of games on them. They do seem really, really quite good. I watch a few different YouTubers that do videos on them, like ETA Prime and Random Gaming in HD, and a few others. And yeah, they really do. There's some of these integrated sort of graphics can do really great. Whether they'll eventually replace discrete graphics, I don't know. I couldn't see it happening in the next sort of decade. I would imagine it would be like what's the 780M? I think is around about. Oh, I'd have to look, but I think it's around about 1650 Ti or 1660. So that's like almost a GTX, around about GTX 1060 6 gig, like pushing up maybe against the GTX 1070, which maybe a bit less than that, like 20% or so, but 20-25%, but that's still quite impressive, really, considering it's on a little handheld as well. With like I think the ROG Ally is 1080p, so as far as I could tell from the reviews, it handled most games pretty well at 1080p. And I think the Steam Deck is custom Radeon Silicon, but I think it's more powerful than a 680M Radeon integrated GPU. But I think it's it's not as powerful as the 780M, which is in the ROG Ally. But that seems quite interesting as well, the Steam Deck. But I know the Steam Deck has a lot more compatibility from what I've seen from reviews than the ROG Ally does. Because I suppose Valve is putting a lot of effort into making sure these games are really compatible with the Steam Deck compatibility layer and things. So yeah, the future of integrated and sort of Steam Deck type things seems really really quite interesting. Just have to see how it goes. Yeah, it always seems like there's something very interesting going on in the sort of PC hardware space and tech in general. There's always something going on. I think in the next episode I'll get into a bit more of the newer things. I just sort of put some topics together just to go over in this first video, which is, I guess, basically a test sort of video, just see what people think, see how I get on. Another sort of interesting, I want to just cover this, just something a bit different, but still tech, is ChatGPT by OpenAI, and yeah, I fiddled around a bit with it. I think GPT 3.5 is the version you can use without paying. I think if you pay, you get GPT 4, which has all the complete access to the internet up to date. But I think GPT 3.5 is limited to data sets up to 2020, maybe something around then. But yeah, I played around with it. It's actually really quite interesting. Had to, like, I was asking about just tech, so I think some tech stuff, but mostly about just history stuff because I'm quite interested in history and science and things. So yeah, just asked it a few things. Yeah, generally quite. I spent a few hours actually. I think, yeah, a few hours over the course of a couple of days just asking it stuff. And yeah, it was really quite interesting and just conversing with it. It was all quite really great actually. There was a few things I asked it that I sort of knew the answer to, and it ended up getting wrong, so I had to correct it. I think on a few things, maybe three things, and it's quite cool because it actually then it goes like, my apologies. I've actually looked back at your answer, and it says that you're actually correct, and it will update its thing, so update its answers in the future. So that was quite cool. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It'd be wild when they bring GPT-4 to the mainstream. I don't know when or if they will. But 3.5 is pretty cool at the moment. I use that every now and then just to ask it things. It's quite interesting. Give it a go. Sign up on the site, give it a go, and yeah, it's pretty cool. But there's also actually, I didn't realize actually that, I know this was from a couple months ago, but reported originally, I think in beginning of February, by Reuters, and it was that ChatGPT, OpenAI's ChatGPT, had the fastest growing user base of a tech product ever, like an app or a tech product. So apparently it took 2 months to reach 100 million users. And for comparison, it took TikTok 9 months and Instagram 2.5 years to reach 100 million. So that seems pretty crazy when you think about it, considering the popularity of those other two. I don't use TikTok. I use Instagram, but not TikTok. But yeah, I've now been using ChatGPT a bit for the past month or so. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. Pretty wild how quickly it's grown. And then Google's also released their Bard AI, which I haven't used yet. I use Chrome, and it's asked me about using it, but I haven't used it. I haven't tried it out yet. I've been meaning to, just to see. But I know that's got the more updated data set, like GPT-4. So maybe give that a go at some point as well. That seems quite interesting. I expect I'll cover more of the sort of AI stuff in the future. It's all rather interesting to see how things are going to go with that. But yeah, see how that goes. Cover it a bit more in the future. So I think that will basically come to the end of the video now. But just a few things before I go. So yeah, next video I think will be Flight Simulator 2020. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'll get that recorded, probably release that if all things go well, sort of maybe, I don't know, maybe next week at some point, I would imagine, before the end of next week, hopefully. But yeah, hopefully you liked what I covered today. It's just really a test video, just see how people think, see how people respond. So if you wanted, you can give me feedback. You can do this, I think everyone knows how to give feedback, liking, disliking, or commenting. And yeah, this will be much appreciated. So yeah, I definitely need feedback just on the video, the audio, the quality things, what I'm talking about, even topics, any questions. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video and my just thoughts and commentary today, feel free to subscribe. this will indicate that people are enjoying the content that I'm putting together. So that's great. And yeah, I'll continue making these, and yeah, just see. And yeah, if people enjoy them, that'll mean a lot to me. I'm looking forward to what people think. And I actually want to finish this with a quote from a video game character. So one podcast I really love is Lex Friedman's. So check him out if you haven't. His podcasts are very tech and science focused, but he covers a lot of other stuff as well. And yeah, he ends each of his podcasts with a quote from someone. So I thought that would be a good way to end each of these. And I think generally they'll be from video game characters, but that might change. And I think rightly so, I should end this episode with a quote from Big Smoke, who is a prominent character in San Andreas and a character that has quite a few memorable quotes. So here we go. All we had to do was follow the damn train, CJ. There we go. Thanks for listening to and watching my video. I'll be back again with another upload, hopefully soon.